against all of the cutbacks that the Republicans have proposed, and she also has a very progressive agenda, which includes us. And it's my pleasure. My best friend happens to be her chief of staff, but I'd like Jan anyway. But it's my pleasure to introduce Congresswoman Jan Schakowski.
Thank you. Thanks, Dr. Thank you all. Thank you all. You know, I walked over here from the Omni Hotel. I just got here, and I have to tell you, and I had been in Tampa for a couple of days. Oh, you know, just causing trouble. Speaking out against, you know, exposing some of the, trying to anyway, the Paul Ryan lies and the, you know, pushing back. But I didn't realize so starkly until I got here. It was like, you know, what they say when there's a big snowstorm and you walk outside, you get snow blindness, white blindness. That's how it was. I mean, I realize now how white it was. I mean, like scary white. You know what I mean? This is like diversity. Thank goodness. I'm so happy to be here where there are lots of people who look a little different from each other. And to be at the Democratic Convention. I am from Chicago area. I represent part of Chicago and the suburbs. And I am an old friend of President Barack Obama for about 15 years. I've known him since I helped him get elected to the Illinois Senate. And I served in the Illinois House at the time, so we've known each other for quite a while. And to be one of the national co-chairs and a surrogate for him, that's what I was really doing in Tampa. So it is just a relief to be here, and so happy to be here with all of you. You know, I can talk about some of the issues, but let me get to the bottom line first. Electing Romney Ryan. And continuing with a Republican-controlled House, and for all practical purposes, because he needs 60 votes in the Senate, in many ways a Republican Senate. That is a disaster for all of us. For all of us. For ordinary people. Well, actually, there's a few people for whom it's probably a good thing if they get elected. We call them the 1%. But other than that, it is truly bad. And so I could go to almost any different caucus at this Democratic Convention and say the same thing. But clearly here at the Disability Caucus, there are so many really meaningful things that we have to protect and things that we have to do. So I want to mention just a couple of things. The proudest day of my life in public service, which really began in 1990, was the day in 2010 that Obamacare, and I say that very proudly, Obama does care, and it's a great piece of legislation, when it became the law, and then of course when it was reaffirmed by the United States Supreme Court. I was for part of it, I was in the courtroom. I'd never been there before, and I heard Antonin Scalia say, "You know, that bill is like 2,000 pages and more. Do you really expect me and my clerks to read it all?" And I mean, I know if I would have stood up and said yes, I would have maybe still be in jail. I don't know what happens to if you do that, but. Not approved. But of course, and apparently John Roberts did read it, and fortunately it was confirmed as the law of the land, although some of my colleagues did not get the updated talking points after the Supreme Court said it was constitutional, because they still went to the floor and said, and what we have to do is work to repeal that unconstitutional bill. Like, oh, you know, read the paper. Anyway, in it, of course, and one of the big bones of contention is the issue of Medicare. And the Republicans can and will say, as much as they can afford to do, which is unlimited, that the Democrats funneled, stole from Medicare $716 billion. Now, we managed to save that amount of money in order to strengthen Medicare. Not any benefit was cut in Medicare. Really important message point for us to keep saying to our friends and colleagues and family. And in fact, Medicare was made better. That Medicare Part D, the donut hole, the gap in coverage, begins to close under the Democratic plan. And it started already. We increased the benefits to Medicare beneficiaries by including preventive services that are now part of Medicare. And of course, women, especially starting August 1st, we added preventive services that are available. Everyone should go take advantage of those, because if you're covered by Medicare, you're entitled to all of these new preventive services. So we made the program better, but they will go around, and when I listened to Paul Ryan, I have to tell you, it made me crazy listening to the lies in his speech, particularly about Medicare. We talked about his mother. He's going to protect Medicare for his mother. He's going to protect Medicare for his generation, for his adorable children, and for their children. The reality is, the Republican plan turns Medicare into a voucher program. Take this amount of money, good luck, go out and find yourself an insurance policy that will cover you for that amount of money. And the research says it will cost Medicare beneficiaries out of pocket an average of $6,400 more to get Medicare. Now, they say, but anyone who is under 65, well, you don't really have to worry about it, because it's going to be for people 55 and under. I have not heard them talk about or refer to persons with disabilities who are on Medicare and not 65. What is going to happen to you if you're on Medicare right now? So we need to... And besides which, of course, they will affect people 65 and over, because if they repeal Obamacare, then all the benefits that have already kicked in and more that are going to kick in will disappear. And so, in fact, it will affect current beneficiaries of Medicare. And what about Medicaid? The Ryan budget that has been signed onto by Mitt Romney turns Medicaid into a block grant that will go to the states. Now, do you trust people like, oh, I don't know, Governor Perry, to make sure that that money, how about Jan Brewer in Arizona? No. What is she going to do to make sure that all of that Medicaid money that would come in a block grant actually goes to help people for long-term care, for home care? It ain't going to happen. So they have, both Romney and Ryan have pledged that see, here's the thing. When George Bush ran for president, he ran as a compassionate conservative, which didn't turn out to be true, and he said he didn't want to interfere in any other countries around the world. Of course, we got into the Iraq War. How about, didn't Condi Rice make it crazy in the Tampa Convention? You know, I mean, getting us into that war that cost so many lives and so many dollars that we're still spending. But these people have told us exactly what they want to do to you. Exactly what they want to do to you. And so we need to just make sure that we don't let them. Now, I want to tell you about one other thing that I have proposed that simply is not going to happen unless we are able to unless we're able to be in the majority. I authored legislation called H.R. 5781, the Inclusive Home Design Act.
Yeah.
You know about it? Let me just briefly tell you what it is. Here's the deal with that legislation. The idea here is that it barely costs any more money to build a home that has within it various inclusive design elements, like zero-step entrance into the home, all doorways, a minimum of 32 inches for clear passage. I mean, there's no magic to door width. Why not build it originally to be wider? Electrical and climate controls, light switches, thermostats, etc., at heights reachable from a wheelchair, at least one accessible wheelchair bathroom on the first floor. Really, we're talking about barely hundreds of dollars, hardly anything to do that originally. But think about the cost of rehabbing a home. One of the main reasons people end up in nursing homes, at far greater cost to the taxpayer, by the way, than to require that new homes be built that way. And so we can And the other thing is, it's good for people who simply want to age in place. You know, persons who may not have a disability now, but almost inevitably will, being able to stay in their home, know that they can stay in their home, what a tremendous benefit for no real cost. And so that's one of the things that I'm working on. The difference between Romney Ryan and Obama Biden could not be starker. I think you know the administration is committed to hiring people with disabilities. A 7% hiring goal for federal contractors and through the Small Business Administration. The Bureau of Labor Statistics has now finally been ordered to report unemployment rates, which are just shocking and unacceptable for persons with disabilities. Only 20% of people with disabilities in the workforce.
That's ridiculous.
Doing quick math, that's like 80% not being able to do that. I mean, that is just, so, you know, they like to talk about, oh, well, all these people who want to get help, you know, they like this culture of dependency. Oh, really? But they don't want to do one thing to make sure that people can actually get to work and actually pass laws and policies. They are not. So, here's the challenge. The challenge, especially with some of these voter suppression laws around the country, is to get everyone out to vote, to get them registered to vote, to get them to the polls. If it's hard, we have to figure it out. That's it, you know? We have to figure it out. There are lawsuits that have been successful about voter suppression, but if they're still in place, it does no good to whine about it. We simply have to figure it out and make sure that we get everyone out. And when we do, then the sky is the limit. Then we can actually sit down in the disability community and strategize with my chief of staff, Kathy Hurl, with me, to figure out with all the supporters of persons with disabilities how we move forward. But first, we have to win on November 6th. We are counting on you, on everybody, to make it happen. Thank you so much.